Hello there, my name is Laban Cliff. Welcome to this special edition where we discuss matters digital transformation. And today I have a special guest who's none other than Jacqueline, who's an established entrepreneur and actually a guru in matters to do digital transformation. We just want to talk to her about that and how you can make money on the digital space. We are at Coffee C Africa, of course, with a myriad of offices across the entire region as well. And we're glad they could actually host us. Jackie, karibu sana.
Thank you, Laban. Thank you so much.
A beautiful establishment, I must say. First time here?
Yes, I love it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really part of what COVID taught us, that you really don't have to have the brick and mortar. You could just get a space and just work as long as you're connected to the internet.
I love that. I love the sound of that. Mm-hmm. I started working away from the office many years ago. In fact, when you work at Google, you don't have to go to the office. When you go to the office, it's not the norm. So I've always worked from everywhere, anywhere. I work from my house, I work from Ugenya, I work at the airports. I love working from the comfort of where I am.
You mentioned Google, but I'm going to talk about your career strides, which, of course, it's envious for anyone to actually work for Google and all the companies worked for, Safaricom Stanbic. But what I get from you, what you say is, as long as you're connected to the internet, even if you're in your rural home,
yes,
I mean, you'll still get to deliver and work.
You know, I spent about 8 months in Siaya County, Ugenya, and nobody knew where I was working from, and I was working from the farm.
And you delivered?
Yes, everything. I can do everything. For as long as there's internet, I have my laptop, I have a setup like this, I can go on video calls, I can write my reports, I can have meetings. Nobody even remembers where you're operating from.
So what do you tell your bosses who are managing software engineers and techies and insist that they need to see them in the office?
That era is gone. I think it's more about putting the right systems in place to measure productivity. Yeah. Have the right systems to tell if the tasks or the responsibilities for the person are being handled and within a certain time frame. Put processes in place to have review meetings. Put templates in place for people to update their work. Give visibility. Use the right tools. You know, there are tools that are available that allow people to work together. Mm-hmm. They are collaborative tools. So if you're working on a document, for example, everybody who is interested should be able to view that document, and even they can give you comments. They can tell you that on paragraph 4, you probably need to put a bit of context on that.
As you're on it.
While you're working on it.
Not to email and send and say, give me feedback.
Oh, my God. It's really tiring. So
yeah.
All you want from someone that you've given a task is that they finish it in good time and properly. And you can monitor all that. You can monitor what time someone starts working. You have the right productivity tools on their computer. You can monitor how long they're idle because they're not opening any app, they're not working on anything. You can see when they're in a meeting because you have a full view of everybody's calendar. So I know I don't need to call you to ask, "Oh, Laban, are you available for a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock? I can view your calendar. You can view mine. And if I find that your calendar is totally full, I can actually propose a time." So I think that the new leadership, they're having a lot of fun because traffic in Nairobi is not easy. And sometimes someone can get in trouble for not doing something that they would have just sat in their house, connected to the internet, finished, submitted the report, and then made their way to their office if there's a physical meeting.
You actually mentioned about Nairobi, and Nairobi indeed is a hub in the digital space. If you look at it in continental Africa, and everyone is, the Silicon Valley is really looking at Nairobi as, like kind of a, benchmark to skyrocket across the African region. This indeed is our time.
Nairobi is a pace setter. Do you know how many professionals are not running their businesses in an office and are working in spaces like this? And the good thing about working in spaces like this is you get here, you're doing your work, you are a media person, but you're surrounded by people who are lawyers, so you can get legal advice.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by people who can market your solution. You're surrounded by technical people, cyber security people. And I think that we underestimate what we have. If you look at the amount of content that Kenyans are producing and putting online on a daily basis, it's amazing. I went to a village in Kenya called Ukwala in a shopping center, and there was a child who had just come from kindergarten class. In the afternoon, just sitting there in the shop where I was buying some things from the mother. And the first thing this child does when she arrives is ask for the mother's phone. And she is that young and is able to tell which icon will lead her to entertainment, which icon is going to lead her to whatever it is that they're looking for. And they know that that phone will not be able to do certain things if it does not have a bundle.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe a tiny little child was busy telling the mother, Mom, you have not, ujaeka bundle hapa, hata siwezi fungua YouTube. So you imagine what kind of...
Everyone just wants to be connected. I think
and
it's
that is from
liberating.
From that level.
Yeah. Sorry, Jackie. I think I jumped the gun. So in case you're just joining us with Jacqueline Bitutu, and she's indeed a guru in her own right in the digital space. For this interview, I just call her Jackie, but if you go on LinkedIn, which I think is the next frontier, and talking about digital space, you need to be on LinkedIn. Look out at Jacqueline Bitutu. So let's start about your strides. And you mentioned about Google. You have been at, because right now, of course, you're at Bauer, which is really your entrepreneurial space. But before that, you are at Stanbic as head of digital banking. You're also at Google as head of products and marketing. You're also at Safaricom as head of product marketing, at Zuko as well, and African Online. If I would project my career 25 years plus, I would really want to have your CV.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So just get us through your journey to entrepreneurship. Like, how was corporate for you, and how did you land into Bauer?
Yeah. Thank you. I've been very blessed, is what I must say, because from an early age, I knew I wanted to do something different. I'm a trained teacher. I hold a degree from Kenyatta University for education. And I taught. But while I was still in the university, internet was coming into the country. And I was really interested. And I didn't have a computer. So I met a group of friends who were doing installations, and I decided to ask them a few questions, which led me to start working at Africa Online while I was still in university in second year. So I started working at night and going to school during the day. I think those were among the first few setups for customer service online 24 hours. And I learned a lot. By the time I was graduating, I had been offered the role of a customer service supervisor, and the rest is history. So I worked for the first internet service provider, and I learned internet from the word go. The first machine that lands, the first dial-up service. And what I learned over time is to grow a business, you need to understand what the circumstance of the person you're trying to give the solution to is and address it. Moving from Africa Online to Safaricom, Safaricom had everything. It wasn't the small internet service provider that I'd come from. Safaricom had everything. They had the money, they had the technology, they had the people, they had the thriving voice business, but they couldn't hack it in data.
At the time, of course, there's always a business case study about Cancel then and Safaricom. While you're joining Safaricom, were they the market leader?
Safaricom has always been the market leader. I think Kencell, Airtel,
Yes,
that organization
yeah.
has consistently been there. They've had their part of the market share, but there is a way that Safaricom connected quickly and moved very fast. I worked there during the time of Michael Joseph, and I can tell you that when I went there, we had less than 20,000 customers on internet. The internet today that people cannot fall asleep without, less than 20,000 people. And the internet service providers existed and they had a bigger customer base.
Yeah.
So what I was bringing to Safaricom was, how do we now take the story of internet service providers and scale it to the rest of the country? And listening to the customers, I get back to that, is very important, because what we realized is people were not getting online because the computer was expensive. There was a modem which was almost $200, and the monthly subscription was about 5,000 shillings a month. Then, those years, that was not going to work, because if you look at the landscape then, we had DSTV, which had less than 16,000 subscribers. How are we going to grow faster than DSTV when our devices were going to be more expensive than DSTV devices? So the game changer was to just bring down that cost of the entry device from the almost $200 to 2,500 shillings, and we had millions on internet immediately. And that changed the landscape completely.
You know, I really don't want to go into that, because I think Safaricom has really morphed into just not only a mobile telephony company, into just being, I'll say, technology.
It's actually a technology company now.
Because just the other day, and I paused because I reflect about the, Safaricom Fiber. Right now, they just released their results yesterday, and everyone is just looking at those financial statements. I think it will be the joy of any CEO to say, you know what, these are my numbers. So I think Peter is really having a good opportunity there. Let's talk about now then, after Safaricom, fantastic space. I think one of the best employers in the country right now, arguably by, of course, the awards that they're actually receiving as, the best companies to work for, also voted by LinkedIn. Then you moved into another, opportunity, which is banking,
The thing about moving from one organization to another depends on how you've prepared yourself. So when I was coming from the ISP to the Safaricom business, I understood the internet provision services completely. I could say I was an expert in the country, but I had not had an opportunity to understand marketing. And the biggest strength for Safaricom working there in marketing and driving data solutions from a marketing perspective is I learned how to market to the customer. And the day-to-day experience is all about the customer. You won't make a step before you figure out what it will do to the customer. And that's how we grew our revenues. My moving into Google was my desire to work for a global organization. You work for the best organization in the country. You feel you become so good. You're at a place where you've achieved a lot, because you can see BlackBerries in the market, Bambanet is in the market. But you always have this thing about, I wanted to travel the world.
Were you based in Nairobi or?
Yeah, they just set up an office and Sheru.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Good old days.
Yes. Yeah, he called me and he says to me, we're getting into the market. We need someone who can explain technology the way you explain it from a marketing perspective. So, and I think you've achieved a lot in terms of marketing, and that's a skill set we are looking for. Marketing and technology at the same time. So going into Google was fresh.
Yeah.
I did all my induction outside of the country. Oh my God, I traveled, and my focus was on SMEs. I got to understand the SME market, moving away from mass market, coming into now a very niche SME space. I worked with so many SMEs. I think we had about 25,000 SMEs coming on board on the digital platform for Google within a space of 6 months. It was beautiful. And
You were indeed in the Google Dream Team. We mentioned Joe Musharu. There's
there's Dorothy.
Dorothy Oko has been there as well.
Yes, there's Wadzanai. There is
Ori Okolo, who's now sitting at the board of Safaricom.
In fact, even Stanbic.
So indeed, if you so it's like a game of musical chairs, right? If I want to work for Google, maybe I start at Safaricom and then.
I think it's how the businesses are built.
Okay.
The businesses are built.
Yeah.
Google is thriving on the foundation of what Safaricom built.
Fantastic.
And getting the traction would probably have required that they get some people who've been in the ISP business, who've been in the telco business.
It's
leverage.
We're in the same business space. I mean, you're in Bauer. The Headhunter Africa, and I look at talent trends, and there's been a talent hemorrhage, particularly with the local firms who are now going into multinationals. The Googles, the Microsofts are all coming after the software engineers, and they are poaching them and doubling, tripling their salaries. So was your salary tripled before you moved from Safaricom?
Thank God it's not current, it's the past.
I'm just joking. But it's indeed the talent war, right? So it means that, you train your best candidates and then
Safaricom pays well. Google pays well.
Fantastic.
And the nice thing about those two organizations is you're not going to get that experience elsewhere. I can work anywhere in the world in the telco space. I can work in payments thanks to the background information that I got from Safaricom, layering it into Google, and now going into Stanbic, where I learned about money, banking, automation of the onboarding process for customers, and all the payment solutions that we had to put on the mobile banking app. These organizations offer a wealth of experience that it's unmatched. If for the young people who are finishing university now, I can tell you the few I have spoken to, including my son. My son is in Strathmore. You went to Strathmore?
Oh, wow. Proud Stratisen.
Yes, my firstborn son is in Strathmore. He's finishing as a software engineer. And he always asks me about Safaricom, Google, Microsoft. Yeah, so it's true that the young people who are coming up right now, their dream is to go to work in those big organizations. But as I watched something, you interviewed Moses Kemabiro.
Yeah.
And Moses talked about the kind of skill set that these young people require to be able to thrive in those organizations. And I think we have talent in Kenya. Unbelievable. When I look at the small organizations that we think that our young people are not going to, you walk into one of those organizations and the skill set and talent in there is overwhelming.
Yeah.
These people understand how business works globally. They're not looking at business from a Kenya perspective. They are not benchmarking with Kenya. And the universities are actually upskilling in terms of the way they are training the young graduates. So there's immense opportunity. That's one. And there is an opportunity for these young people to learn a lot more.
That's good advice. I mean, if you're out there looking at it online, please just make sure you can just grasp, I think, education around software engineering. And I think you're the one who really must have tailored your son into this
my son makes,
software engineering.
My son
you
makes
influenced the decision.
he makes his choices. Maybe he admires what I've done, but he makes his choices.
I mean, yeah.
And speaking of what platforms are available for the young people, I think the government is also doing a lot around creating ability for people to get online. So there is a whole strategy around getting thousands of cyber cafe kind of setups in the country, and also getting platforms for outsourcing where now the people who have the right skill set can go on those platforms, log into those platforms and find opportunities to work and get paid. The government is not talking a lot about it, but it's already there. A lot of the young people are on the Ajira platform.
Yeah.
A lot of the young people are already doing outsourced work online. Yeah.
It's a good opportunity as well. Jackie, what's interesting about your profile is, having one foot Safaricom and then move to a multinational, really America's largest conglomerate, search engine giant, Google, and then you jump into banking. What is wrong with you?
Oh, I always say this to women who are in leadership. There's something called seasons. You have to know which season you are in.
Yeah.
And when I jumped into Google, I was still in these. I couldn't settle. I wanted to grow. I wanted to get to a CEO level, in fact. Then I landed at Google. My children, I have 4 children, and the age difference in between my children is 1, 1, 1.
You all have them all at once.
Yes. Now they're all
They're great.
in school.
Yeah.
And that's the age where they have to do their swimming, piano, karate, taekwondo, all of them all at the same time. And they were performing very well at the top of their classes. It took me the time that I was in Google for their performance to go down because I was traveling 75% of the time. So I had to find an opportunity to work in an organization that would allow me to be available physically at my house almost every evening, more than 80% of the time. And a friend called me and told me about Stanbic. The reason I was interested in Stanbic is it's a bank, and it's actually a digital setup. The aspiration of Stanbic growing in terms of numbers is not in line with the way they grow their branch network. They don't have more than 30 branches in the country, but they have customers countrywide. And digital is the first thing that they drive in terms of anything that they want to roll out. So I really wanted to still stay within the digital space, grow within this digital space, and going into banking was good for me because after the launch of M-Pesa in Safaricom, all banks were trying to partner with Safaricom to bring their mobile wallet to the customers. So going to Stanbic was a question or a request to God that was well answered.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you look at the Stanbic app, and I'm just speaking as, one of those random clients, and then you just say, oh, wait a minute, this is really cool, check online the usability, the opportunity for it as well. But you came in even before the app, the internet banking. This was really when they were just establishing themselves here.
I came in to apparently drive the sales numbers. And I had a team of about 400, almost 500 people.
Wow.
Right opposite Nation Center at the Stanbic office there.
Yes,
and
it's very iconic, actually, with the red brick.
Yes, yes.
The red brick building.
So we were going door to door, getting customers to open bank accounts and take loans. And we were asking, the sellers were asking very difficult questions. I personally was struggling because I'd come from an organization where I could work from anywhere. You didn't need to wear a suit. You didn't need to leave your house to work. That's how Google works. Now, you needed to go physically to meet the customer, to collect photocopies of their credential or of their documents for KYC, know your customer, so that you can open for them an account. And sometimes the seller could go to visit the customer more than 4 times to be able to achieve that. Let's cut the long story short. When the mobile banking app was launched and transformation of the customer onboarding process was done, at that time I was head of digital banking. I had moved from head of sales. These salespeople were actually opening the accounts from their desks. Sales changed. The organization transforms completely because now you do all the prospecting and fulfillment is digital. That is what any sales machine or sales team requires. Let them do what the core of their work is. Look for the customer, speak to the customer, influence the purchasing process. Let the rest of the work be done with technology. Okay. They always say, if you're actually doing a job that a machine can do, like scanning a document, converting it to text, putting into the system for verification, all that can be automated. Okay. So I think I was very excited. By the time I was leaving Stanbic, I was very excited because the entire onboarding process had been digitized to the point of lending. You know that on the app today, you can take up to 4 million shillings while just posing over there.
4 million? God, I thought I just have a limit of 500,000. That's
probably you need to check. I know what you earn.
Yeah.
So I think your UPL limit is about 4 million. You must be in private banking. So you can take it based on the way you use your account.
Yes.
Unless you're splitting your money across many other banks. The story should be able to give you a significant limit. But the key thing is that from your phone right now, you can click and check the status of your loan, pay for it, get the money right now, transfer to your bank account, and transact in the way you want.
This is amazing. You know, actually, the Communication Authority speaks about the rise of the use of the smartphone. You know, we had the Kabambes, of course, and you had Safaricom. I mean, that was the launch of Alcatel and all these other funny phones. You know, which is just really features, and there's all these Motorola, yes, and it's just USSD. But I think when you talk about digital transformation, we cannot miss to talk about the smartphone and really what the smartphone has done. I mean, you mentioned about the Stanbic app. You've told me, like, I can actually access triple the amount I thought I can access.
So the thing is, the device determines a lot of things. But let's not forget that in Africa, we still don't have that system of credit where, say, for example, my relatives abroad, they change their phone every year.
Wow. It's good. Because of the insurance?
Because of the insurance and the bundle, the bundled package. Yeah. So every time there's a new phone, they just return the old one, add something equivalent to 500 shillings on their monthly bill, and they get the brand new phone. We are still not there.
Yeah.
So when you're creating a solution for a customer right now, you will go mobile first. But within mobile first, you'll have to remember that there are people with the kabambes. Now, the people with the kabambes have money. And some people actually have a kabambe by choice. They have a kabambe by choice.
To avoid being tracked.
Yes. So when you're developing a solution, as I have done for SMEs and for individuals, you must always have the USSD format as the bare minimum. Internet fails. You need to be able to transact even in the absence of internet or inability to purchase a bundle. You should be able to still access your bank account. So The device plays a critical role, but in terms of digital inclusivity, we always have to make sure that when you're launching a solution, you test it across all devices,
Okay.
starting from the
USSD.
cheapest device in
Okay.
the market to the most recent one.
Yeah.
I used to stress my family a lot by arriving with 10 to 15 types of phones that I'm testing for the mobile banking app for Stanbic to just make sure that it displays the right way on all. The user experience has to be seamless.
That's great.
Yeah.
Then all this experience, I mean, from Africa Online, Zuki, your Safaricom, Google, Stanbic, then you go into your own space, which is now Bauer Consulting.
I've always had Bauer Consulting since 2011. And every time during my career break, I try something with it. The first career break I took, I set up a digital business for organic food, fresh organic food. I had a shopping cart, I had deliveries, I do a lot of deliveries around Gigiri. So wanting to run something that allows me to experience something beyond my day-to-day work is important for me. Even as I transitioned from Stanbic, I've done fresh things like farming in my home in Ugenya.
Okay, yeah.
I think we've hit 6,000 trees right now in terms of
Fantastic. Yeah.
avocado farming. And it's always good when you think beyond what your employer offers you, because in the corporate world, you have an 8 to 5 job, and to be an effective employee, you need to almost spend all that time that you're being paid to think about the role that you handle. But the mind is not like that. The mind requires diversity. So I would say that a startup of Africa Online, somewhere in a little office we used to call a matchbox, taught me that it's possible. We had Aisi Makatiani and Amolongweno setting up that place. They just come as graduates from abroad, and they had this internet dream.
Yeah.
That inspired me. And people can set up their businesses when they have the dream. It doesn't have to be something big. Okay. It will grow if it addresses the needs of the customer.
Yeah.
Going into Safaricom taught me the need to understand the customer and to do everything you can to respond to their call if you want to grow. And that is when I told you about, it didn't look like we were ever going to get a modem that is cheap enough for internet to penetrate in this market. It didn't look like we were going to ever get a phone that could do data that was cheap enough to drive growth in this business. But consistently listening to the customer and saying you will not proceed until you figure out what the customer's cry is about is one thing I learned from Safaricom. Yeah. But going into Google, I had then the opportunity of understanding digital marketing completely. So how to run your business 100% digitally, how to set up your digital marketing platforms, how to handle social media, how to use that to incorporate it to Google Maps, to the shopping cart. I mean, it was so exciting. I used to consistently try to map and give feedback on every location I went to when I was there, because then we were at the top of mapping the country at that time. And so carrying that experience of a startup, listening to the customer, going into a global setup, digital, and now money matters at Stanbic, I am completely ready to actually have a conversation with any organization to see where exactly they are and what they can do differently and how they can leverage on the digital transformation aspects to grow their businesses. So I think I've been blessed to do the full journey of understanding a business, growing revenues, and businesses mostly, unless they're an NGO, revenue is big. So you can say everything digital, everything marketing. Shareholders are always asking, where are the numbers?
Where's the numbers and where's the money?
And that is something that I learned very well at Safaricom and at Stanbic.
And you have to just, there's a shareholder value, like, give them what they've actually invested in the business.
Yes.
So, Bauer, I mean, you consult for many businesses, personnel, people who are looking to get into the space. Just give us like your top 3, leadership insights you'd give to that digital transformation manager.
Okay.
I would not want to mention Google, Stanbic, but just across the country. And I'm saying that because you have been there, you've done that.
A digital transformation manager is a key resource for any organization. It's a role that all organizations must embrace. You have a customer service manager, you have a head of marketing, you have a head of finance, you have a head of human capital. I think for any organization that wants to succeed into the future, defining that role today and giving it the significance it requires is important. Mm-hmm. Why is it that the role of digital transformation is great? It's because that individual fully understands the organization, that individual understands technology, that individual understands the future of technology and the trends, and can actually now say, we here at Naivas, for example,
which actually they've embraced digital.
Yes, at a retail setup. But
online
we have
shop.
customers coming in and going out. In that whole process of them walking in and walking out, what are the data points that we can collect to make the experience better tomorrow? Mm-hmm. How can we follow them beyond the supermarket to tell them about something that we have? How can we make the experience better? So, for example, basic things like a customer comes in and you can even, through the cameras, you can tell the movement of that customer, and you can see their level of frustration by the number of shop attendants they speak to. Mm-hmm. You can see how they're moving from the place where they were picking milk, and then suddenly they have to go and get toothpaste in another corner, and suddenly they have to go to where the detergents are. And based on that, you can map a customer journey that allows your customer to actually purchase in a more efficient way if they're physically in the shop. The head of sales in Naivas, for example, any other organization, does not have to knock doors all the time. They need to look at the customer behavior inside and outside the shop, inside when they're there, outside how they interact with your social media platforms, to be able to propose new propositions for the customer. You may notice that when the customers are coming to the outlet, they're struggling with the children. How about you run an online survey of how they would like to make the experience for shopping better if they had children? Mm-hmm. You may notice that they are covering a very huge distance within the supermarket to just buy 3 items. And you know who they are because they have your smart card, they purchase, and you have their history.
You pay by M-Pesa.
So the digital transformation head works with the head of sales, the head of human capital, and everybody else to say, these are the opportunities we see. This is what data is telling us. From a data analytics perspective, X number of customers are walking in, X are walking out without buying anything, X are walking out buying less than they bought last month. Exactly at this time, they've stopped buying the following products. They've changed brand this way. And you can be able to even tell how to stock your stuff. So that role is not a technology role. It is a futuristic role. It's a role that assists the organization to see how to make everything super efficient for the customer, how to proactively predict future propositions for the customer, and how to solve current problems. So customer service people are permanently talking to customers, but the head of innovation or digital transformation can come and say, show me the data.
Yeah, let's look.
Let's look at the
it.
data. And 90% of the people, for example, in banks, X percentage, more than 50% of the people were calling to ask for their balance. So what do? On the mobile banking app, you create a functionality to check for balance, and you make it the first one, and then you try and make sure you don't charge for it.
I think that's a classic business school case, and I think more than just going online, you should think about just giving like a leadership seminar to just these CEOs who are trying to just grapple this digital transformation. I mean, I have good experience with the media space, and the cheese has moved. Honestly, people are no longer buying newspapers. You're checking your news online. So I feel like you'd be a great resource in this sector, for instance. Just telling guys to position themselves.
I attended the Nation Digital Summit. I was really interested in that Nation Digital Summit for the simple reason that I'm interested in understanding what's happening in the media space. And for them to host digital events is a very good move. It's an excellent move. It shows that they recognize where the future is, and they want to play in that space, and they want to be thought leaders in that space. Now, looking at that summit, I noticed a few things. That they have such a big following. I think they have 28 million. The numbers are crazy.
Yes, on Nation Africa, you mean?
Yes,
of course.
Yes. So whatever they do, they can scale it beyond the physical space where they are doing it. And you can imagine what's happening to the people who are telling stories. Overnight, we think we are following an event, and if we don't find the traction that we are looking for, suddenly you find that someone else has created their own channel and is trending and taking the audience away
from you.
So what you raise is very important, and the direction for organizations to take is make sure they have the right resources within the organization that are driving that agenda. Make sure that the culture within the organization promotes futuristic trends, and make sure that they are open-minded to listen to thought leaders and to invite many of them to interact with their people. And we all learn every day.
Great.
And my biggest challenge is when you go online to get information. We have a lot of people who have studied digital courses, digital content providers, and we are not putting in as much content on digital as we should. I know we are dancing a lot, and we
pride ourselves as being the Silicon Savannah.
Yeah, we
Africa.
need to put a lot more content around that space, because we are being looked at as they call it the Silicon, the Savannah, the digital Savannah.
Yes.
So for us to be the digital Savannah, we have to take leadership.
There's an opportunity there. Jackie, I want to just close down. Sadly so, because I think anyone who's following your journey, following your strides, they really just want to mine from your brain, really, what you've actually achieved over these 5 years. But what is just that one thing that you'd like to do with, the experience you've had, and of course, rightfully so, going into the entrepreneurial space is one thing, but is there any other thing that perhaps you feel deep down that, this I want to just give back for the experience I've had in the digital sales space?
I'm at that space. They say that women don't say their age. But I'm at that space. I'm thinking really hard about the stuff that I need to do to give back to society. And I sit on a number of boards. Specifically, the ones I want to talk about are not the ones in Nairobi. I want to talk about the ones that are in Siaya County. And digital inclusivity, for me, in Siaya County is big. You start in the way that you can do it yourself. So in the schools that I sit on the board, I'm working closely with people who can provide computers that I can take to those schools, introduce the principles of the schools to what technology can do for them. So that's just from a personal perspective.
Yeah.
To imagine that there is a school today that even the head teacher does not have a laptop or a computer in their office.
How is that happening?
So digital inclusivity.
Okay, so it means there's an opportunity.
There is an
actually in
opportunity.
Nairobi, yeah.
Not everybody's living the
Yeah.
life we are living here in Nairobi.
Yeah.
No, there's a big opportunity for us to introduce digital connectivity in a structured, sensible manner across the country. We don't have to get our children to learn digital aspects only through watching TikTok on our phones. We have to structure it. And I know the government is doing a lot about that, but in my own little space, in the little schools around me that don't have that, I want to be able to do something. Great. That's one. The second thing is I want to share the knowledge I have. So my desire to get online was actually driven by the fact that I have so much that I've learned in the past over 25 years that is coming to play right now in a very aggressive way that I can speak about. So
did you warn your team about it, or maybe train somebody, just in case you've left, then they can actually, continue hold the mantle?
I left very able people in the role, in all the roles.
The beauty of any leader,
I'm a very, my personality, it could be a strength or a weakness. I'm an empath. Mm-hmm. I don't thrive alone. I have the urge to teach at all times. So I'm teaching at different levels. So I have speaking opportunities. So whenever I'm called to speak about digital transformation in line with an organization, take time to understand the organization and the culture and talk about it. So that I do. The other thing that I do with all the knowledge that I have today is I have young professionals and even seasoned professionals who are having challenges in terms of leveraging the expertise that they have and how they take it into the digital space so that we can get more traction in their career and also in how they influence others. So I work with those.
Okay.
And I'm a good teacher.
I like.
So you'll soon see me talking a lot about what my experience is and how that experience can build back into what you're running today and make your successful business.
And a proud student I am, to be honest. I feel like
Thank you so much.
I feel like I've had a crush,
Thank you.
Engagement of your past
Thank
25 years. And congratulations, and honestly wishing you the very best in your next 25 years.
Asante sana.
I think there's a big opportunity out there as well. So
Great.
We'll pause here, and of course we'll have many more series as well with Jackie Bitutu, just trying to really just go back into her strides and really what she's gained over time and how she's giving back to you out there, and hopefully you can get a bit of those nuggets and apply that in your personal life and in your business. Stay tuned, only on this platform.